All right, guys, so if you run a marketing agency and you've ever thought about running ads to get clients, then this video is going to be an absolute goldmine for you. I'm literally going to peel back the curtain and literally just go through everything and explain all the little secrets and little tweaks that I applied and have learned through my lesson of running ads for a very, very long time. I'm literally going to go through, I've got my notes in front of me. I'm going to go through the funnel and the mechanics that make it work. I'm going to go through the offer, because the offer that you use for paid ads actually has to be designed for paid ads, and then explain what that means. I'm going to go through cash flow management in terms of like how much budget to set, how to orchestrate all of that. I'm going to go through the guarantee that we used in our offer and why we use that guarantee. I'm going to actually show you the Facebook Business Manager and go through the actual ads, the setup, the spend, the different cost per strategy sessions, and pretty much everything. And then, guys, I'm going to give you my secret sauce, which is basically using sales setters, which is a way to reduce your cost per strategy session and increase your show up rates. And what you'll find when you run ads for a long time, those are the two problems that you run into. Right. First of all, if it's too expensive to have a sales call, then what's the point? And then the other thing is people don't show up to the calls. So this is not like you having a cold call or doing an email. The issue with ads is people scroll through their feed on a daily basis very, very quickly. And very often, 20 minutes after they book the call with you, they've forgotten who you are. And then they just don't show up to the call. And that's very, very expensive. First of all, because it's opportunity cost. It's a client that you could have landed, but you didn't. But secondly, it's also just a time cost, because now it's sitting in your calendar and you've got that blocked off, and then you show up to the call and they don't show up, right? So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to show you the closing framework that we used to actually close these clients consistently, because closing clients on a sales call from cold traffic through ads is very different to closing clients through like cold email or something. Just the way that the prospect arrives on the call is a little bit different. And then I'm going to go through the 8 follow-up sequences that we used. And finally, I'm going to give you a little bit of a bonus. I'm going to reveal to you what I would do if I had been running these ads and they didn't work, right? So kind of give you like this is what I did, but if it didn't work, this was going to be the next thing that I did, right? Because I always believe in having contingencies like that. Right. So with that being said, why should you actually care? Why should you listen to me? So my name's Courtne, if you're new to the channel. I've ran 2 agencies in the past, one of which I scaled and sold. And the second one, which I'm going to use as a case study for this, which I got to about 25K MR in 45 days of starting it. And I also run systems and profit. So not only have I ran ads for both of my agencies at scale, but on top of that, I've also helped many, many other agencies implement the same strategies I'm about to show you into their agencies. And I've gone through that process over and over. So I feel like I'm very, very confident to kind of go through this, right? With that being said, let's cut to the chase. Let's just get into it. All right, guys. So I've got my notes here, and then I'm going to go through everything as promised, including, like I said, the ads manager, and just show you that this is real and this does work. So as I said, this is what I'm going to go through. This is the bonus. But before I do that, I just want to give you a little bit of social proof and just show you that I know what I'm talking about and that this did happen. So I've used this screenshot before in some of my videos. It's just the one that I've pretty much got saved now in my notes. But this is agency growth tube. You can see in this time period, we did 30K and then 3,600. I've got the mobile view and the desktop view, so you know it's all legit. Just a little bit of an explainer. Our true MRR at the time of this was about 25K-ish. The reason why it's a little bit more is because clients paid up front, right? Which I'll talk about in a little bit. So there's social proof. That's the agencies. Let us start with the actual funnel. So the funnel itself was quite simple. So it's pretty much ads to funnel and then to sales call, right? That's how the process worked. So it was a very, very simple funnel. It's a landing page, the little bit of a logo, some key aspects that I realized and I built out over time, because I would just recommend that you copy this page almost as is. So what you do in the top is you just call out exactly who you are talking to. That's really important, because what you'll find with ads, sometimes it's very difficult to pinpoint the exact person that you're looking for, right? Depending on your niche. So again, a lot of this stuff take with a pinch of salt, because I would imagine running ads for like gym owners or, I don't know, doctors, chiropractics would probably be a little bit easier, because it's easy to find those specific niches. In this case, just to explain to you why I went this way, is GrowthTube pretty much sells to info creators, right? So anyone who sells a course, that's pretty much our audience. I'll break the offer down a little bit more just now, but that's pretty much our audience. Now, the problem with that is, what interest do you use to find those people, right? It's a very, very difficult interest to find. And so I did my best with the targeting, but then my creative did an even better job because it called them out directly. Okay, so that's why I did that. Then a key thing here with the headline is to literally call out the dream outcome that you are going to deliver, not the method, right? So for example, we basically help course creators sell more courses. How do we do that? Well, we run YouTube ads for them, and we also edit the YouTube content, and we do the whole organic strategy and scheduling and SEO and yada, 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 right? But you don't see that here. I don't talk about YouTube ads or YouTube organic or any of that stuff. I just literally say, what are we going to do? We're going to help you build an audience online. That's the organic stuff. We're going to fill your sales calendar. That's the ad stuff. And those two things combined are going to help you sell more courses. And then if it doesn't work, you don't pay, right? So the reason why you want to do that is because sometimes someone might have tried YouTube ads before, or they might have tried, Facebook ads. And by not saying any of those things, you pretty much don't burn yourself before you actually get the chance to even talk to them, because people have preconceived notions of what they think they need, even if it's not what they actually need, right? So for example, whoever's watching this, they might have run YouTube ads in the past and it didn't work for them. And that's not because YouTube ads doesn't work for them. It's simply because they just didn't do it properly. Now, if I had mentioned YouTube ads, they might have read that and say, I've tried that before. It's not worth my time. And they will just leave, right? So that's why we do that. Then a little bit of a summary just about what the video is. A big call out that I had here, and actually one of my friends audited this for me and kind of gave me this tip, but the actual video, make sure it's clickable, because the first version of my funnel didn't have that. And then afterwards I realized, wow, I should really have done that from the beginning. So luckily you guys are watching this content. So button and video both have to do the same thing. They open up the form, really important. Form, super simple. It's pretty much just reiterates the headline of your top page. And then it's the full name, email, and then phone number. I'm going to talk about the phone number just now. But it is crucial that you capture that. Not only that, another little technical hack that I found is you must capture the country code. So for example, currently I'm filming this YouTube video from my house in Cape Town. And so because of that, it is picking up, okay, I'm in South Africa, and it's picked up the country code. This is very important because sometimes what happens is people enter their numbers like 081, 212, this and that. But then because they don't give you the country code, what do you do with that? Because you can't phone them if you don't have the country code, right? Especially if you're running ads in multiple countries like we were. So that's super important that you have that country code in place. Otherwise, it pretty much breaks the whole funnel. Okay, so after that, after opting in, takes them to a very simple page. It pretty much just rehashes, it's pretty much just a summary of the video. It gives them an action to actually watch the video. Then there's the video itself. We host it in Wistia. The reason it's in Wistia is, first of all, it's the fastest, with no lag, any of those issues. Third, really good video analytics in the back end to dive through if you need to remake your VSL. Finally, another thing that I just want to call out on the video is it should be about 10 minutes. I found that the sweet spot for VSLs are about 10 minutes, at least in today's day and age. I mean, TikTok and these things, pretty much people just don't have attention spans anymore. So the less, the better. Now, I've made 2 VSLs in the recent months. I made this one for GrowthTube, obviously, earlier in the year. And then I just finished making a new one for Systems and Profit, which is my education company for agency owners. You can have a look at that. It's the first link in the description. You can go look at the video if you want. Now, the reason I bring it up is that VSL was about 13 minutes. So with GrowthTube, I actually beat my expectations. This VSL ended up being about 7 minutes or so. The SAP one was about 30 minutes. And the reason for that is just it's a bit more complicated of an offer. But long story short, try and make it about 10 minutes. I kind of saw that as the sweet spot, right? Then a simple button, which takes you to a Calendly. And it's my privilege and honor to show you this, but GrowthTube is at maximum capacity. If you wanted to work with us, we literally couldn't take you on as a client. Through the strategy I'm about to show you and some of the other things that I've shared on my channel, we absolutely max capacity, and I'll only be hiring next year. So we are full, which is an awesome thing to say as an agency owner. But yeah, so that's the funnel. Very simple. Yeah, I think it's just about the execution. This was a really good video, I think, that I made. Definitely, I think this is probably the best VSL that I've ever made. And I've made probably about 20 of them. So I think that definitely helped, right? But yeah, that is the funnel as it stands. Now I want to talk about the offer and the upfront cash. So these two kind of like tie into each other, right? So what is our offer? I've mentioned this on many other videos. I'm not going to go into it now, but basically GrowthTube has a front end and a back end offer. Now the front end is pretty much content and basic ads, right? So it's, X amount of YouTube videos and shorts per week, plus all the scheduling, SEO, all the tracking, because a big problem with organic is you can't actually track it. So all the tracking, kind of strategic guidance, all that stuff. And then basic ads just to boost the reach of those videos. Now, obviously, once you've built this big audience on YouTube, then you actually need to convert them, right? So you need like a VSL or a back-end funnel, and that's our back-end service, right? So that's our front-end offer and back-end offer, right? Now, we have a rule that we don't sell the back-end to new customers, and the reason why you don't want to do that is usually back-end is very resource-intensive, and if you bring on clients that are not qualified, it can be very problematic, to say the least, because if there's no results, then the client complains and then you have chargebacks, and it's just not a good thing to deal with. So we kind of use the front end as a litmus test to see if there would be a good fit for our back end, especially because back end is higher cost for us to deliver. So I want to make sure that, only the cream of the crop is going there so that I know that my resources are well spent. Now, front end offer. I've spoken a lot about when you launch a new agency, make sure you launch in beta and charge about $500 a month for it. So we did that with 2 clients we had in beta. It was incredible success. Then when I launched my front-end offer, I launched it at $1,500 a month, right? That was the front end. But, and here is the trick. It's very important that you understand with ads, the more you can charge the client, the better. Because essentially with ads, the more you can go in the hole before losing money, the more you're going to be able to beat everyone else running ads. For example, let's say I sign a client for 10K and you sign a client for 1K, right? Now, both of us have the same cost per strategy session, the same cost for everything, right? But let's just say, for example, I'm willing to spend twice the amount per day. And because of that, I have a little bit of a buffer, right? Obviously, because it's more ad spend, Facebook just, goes a little bit wider with the audience, so it's not as narrow. Now, let's say that I just sign more clients than you, but at a lower profitability. So you're getting like a 3x ROAS, I'm getting a 2x ROAS as an example. I'm still going to win because 2 times by my, what did I say, like 10K a retainer, whatever it is, still beats a 3 on like a 1K retainer, right? So name of the game, the more you can charge, the better, right? Provided that people are actually willing to buy it. So how do you sell something super high ticket if you don't have a lot of case studies or results? Because obviously this was a new offer that I just went through. Well, the secret is you basically charge for X amount of period upfront. So with GrowthTube, we were obviously charging $1,500 a month, but if you came through our funnel through ads, you could only buy 3 months upfront. And what I did is I gave a 20% discount. So I was actually selling something for $3,600 because it was 3 months upfront minus a 20% discount, which came to $3,600, right? And that's kind of how I went about doing that. So because of that, I was willing to spend up until $3,600 to get a client because I was willing to basically break even on 3 months because I knew after about 3 months I could ascend them into my back-end offer, which is a way higher retainer than $1,500, which is where most of the top line profit for GrowthTube actually comes from, right? So again, that's important to understand because you need to know your economics going into this. One of the things I will say with this is when you run ads, it's almost like rolling the dice, right? Even if you've been doing this for a long time, sometimes it just really, really works and sometimes it doesn't, right? And that actually comes down to another point that I wanted to make here, which is before doing any of this, you should have a couple prerequisites in place, right? So the first thing is you need to be making about 10K per month, right? I've found that this is like the sweet spot, honestly, because if you're making less than this, chances are you just don't have the revenue to support running ads at scale. But also if you're making less than this, you don't have what I call service market fit, right? Which is the next point here, which is you kind of need to have a good offer, right? And you need to know what language to use with that offer. So if you look at this funnel, I didn't just like sit in a Google Doc and just type this, right? That's not how I came up with this copy. This copy had been the result of a huge amount of outbound, right? I've done a lot of outbound for the offer. And so I pretty much figured out, okay, what works from a copywriting standpoint and what doesn't. And then I just took all those successful ingredients and just combined them into this. So the key here is you don't just go into ads straight away. You actually leverage the stuff that you built through your organic outreach first, okay? Very, very important. And then finally, you just have to be willing to lose, right? So I'm just going to say you have to be willing to lose money. So how much did I actually spend on these ads? Okay, so you can see that I'm looking at the maximum in the ad account. And I spent about $947, right, to actually fill us to max capacity. Now, let's say that I spent that $947 and I got nothing. I got no leads, no calls, no clients, whatever. I'm lucky enough that my companies do quite well that like I wouldn't have really cared. It wouldn't have really kept me up at night, worrying about what about the money that went and, why am I not profitable, this and that. I would have been able to brush it off very easily. And I think that's very important when it comes to running your own ads because you're not emotionally tied to the money, right? I just look at this as like, okay, 947, that went out, what came back in, blah, 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 and I just go from there. If all I had was 947 in my bank account, I would have been so stressed, very emotional, probably would have made the wrong decisions when running the ads, right? So you have to be willing to lose that money. And that's why I say just roll the dice, understand that, okay, I'm willing to invest this amount into ads. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll try again later. It's fine. All right, that's the mindset that you have to adopt going into this because I don't want people to try and run ads and they haven't not done this, they haven't done this, and nothing works, right? Now, the reason why I was able to accelerate this process, because I'm not going to lie to you guys, I started ads before this, right? I think we were at about I want to say about a 4K, maybe 5K mark before I started running ads. The reason why I did that is, first of all, I've run ads for 2 agencies, right, before. Secondly, I have worked with 50 agencies and systems and profit to build these type of systems and help them scale. So I've just seen the inside of so many agency ad accounts. And also I've been in the agency space for 5 years. And before that, I've been running Facebook ads. So I just have a lot of experience and I had a lot of capital that I was willing to just roll the dice because I just had a gut feeling that this offer was going to absolutely hit. I knew it was a good market fit. I knew it was a good offer. I knew all of these things, right? Going into it. Very, very important though, I didn't just go into ads, right? I actually had a bit of a plan and I had some of those prerequisites in place. So I just want to make sure that you guys have a lot of that before you just roll into it because I do think having that is really important, which is offer and upfront cash. Now, the next thing is guarantee. So obviously my guarantee is super strong, right? If you don't get your results, you don't pay. But there's a couple things also to understand about that. First of all, I had already delivered the service multiple times. multiple times. Remember, I launched in beta first. So before I did any actual outreach, I got those 2 beta customers and they got incredible results, not like mediocre or average results, incredible results. So I knew I was really, really confident in our service. That's another thing that people don't seem to understand. But like when you're selling, if you don't believe whatever you're selling, you're not going to sell it well, right? I knew what we had to offer was awesome. I knew it kicked ass and I knew it was the best out there. And I could say that with conviction, right? I had an amazing team. I had built systems in place. We had delivered results. We had lots of happy customers. Well, 3, I think, 2 beta and 1 normal. So I just went into this with the understanding that, okay, I have a lot of experience. This is going to work. So I was able to offer a guarantee that a lot of people would have ran away from, because I just knew, provided we get the right customer, provided that the systems stay in place and the team that I have is in place, we should get amazing results. But even then, I cherry picked the metric that I wanted to use, right? So the key here is to make the guarantee easy to achieve. So our guarantee had a condition to it when you actually went through the sales process with us. It was basically, if we didn't achieve this amount, then you were eligible for the guarantee. And I knew that I would achieve that amount in like the first 2-3 weeks, right? So it was almost a no-brainer for me. And it was also over a 90-day period. So again, when it comes to guarantee, the advice that I'd give you guys is just actually have some confidence. Don't offer a guarantee if you don't have confidence in yourself. Otherwise, it's just going to come across when you actually present it on the sales call. But secondly, you're just going to lose money and time very quickly. Third, just choose a metric that is easy to measure and easy to hit, right? Don't choose very obnoxious things. So like I see a lot of people make the mistake when they run Facebook ads for like e-com businesses. They would order the client and the client's got like a 2x ROAS and then they offer a guarantee of like a 12x. That's too much of a jump. It's just not realistic, right? You basically checkmate yourself. So that's very important. Right, now let me actually run through the ads and kind of break down these numbers a bit, right? So first of all, I ran 2 campaigns. The cost per strategy for this one was about 242. The cost per meeting here was 463. So I want you guys to just forget about this phase 2.1. This was pretty much me just like testing a bunch of things because I was playing around with the students at SAP. So I was just testing some things. So that's why this is significantly higher, right? So I know I wanted to show you both of this because I didn't want to actually exclude the data or like make up anything happen, but it didn't. But really, this is the main campaign where a lot of the results came from. Right. So a couple of things with the ads. Let's just go back up to the high level to kind of call out for you. The key metrics that you want to look at when you run ads, at least for agencies, is leads, your cost per lead, and then your cost per strategy session, and then your cost per click. Those are the metrics that I found to be the most important. A lot of people look at CTR and they'll look at like CPM and these things, and those are important metrics. But the issue with this is just usually with an agency, it's B2B, it's not B2C, right? So it's not like you're selling skincare products or wallets or something that is appealing to a massive audience. Business owners are usually very small niche, so you are going to pay a higher CPM and your CTR should be fairly low. Reason being is I knew that I was running to very broad audiences and I was trying to call out people running info because there is no interest on Facebook for infopreneurs, right? Like that's not an interest. So I knew that my CTR was going to have to be low because I was trying to call them out in the creative. So basically I was advertising to a big market with the creative, which basically only screamed at 10% of the market. So arguably, if my CTR was very high, I actually would have thought my creative is bad. So it's kind of like a theory there called inversion applies, where it's like to get what you want, you actually have to have the opposite of what you think you want, right? Most people aim for high CTRs. I actually wanted a low CTR, okay? But again, I knew that my economics still had to make sense, which is why I didn't really care about CTR. I actually looked at cost per click. I was willing to pay a $5 cost per click in my head. Again, I see a lot of people doing this. They run ads and they don't like have numbers. They just run ads. I learned a long time ago that when you run ads, you have to have some form of benchmark or target hit in your mind. Otherwise, you just run a million miles away from it and you don't even know it. So I was willing to pay about $5 cost per click, and we averaged about 352. And on the actual campaign that I said you guys should look at, when I was actually doing this seriously, we were about 323, right? So that's in range. Now, cost per lead, I was willing to pay $50 for that. We got 32. Those are the metrics that we got there. And then meetings scheduled. Honestly, for this, I was prepared to pay about 200 to 250, right? That was kind of what I wanted to achieve. Now, it might look like I didn't achieve that, but we actually got more than 3 meetings, okay? And this is where that secret sauce comes in, which I'll tell you about just now. But firstly, a couple of things that I just want to cover on the ads, because I know you guys will find this very interesting. A very big lesson that I learned is make sure you are optimizing for the Calendly event. A lot of people try and make like custom conversions on the confirmation page. So when they book, they get redirected and then the pixel fires. I just think that that's a very big mistake. Because like, as we know, iOS 14 tracking is all screwed pretty much. So like it doesn't work. But B, there's a lot of delay between when they book the Calendly and then if they don't go to the confirmation page because it doesn't load, there's problems there. Sometimes people book and then click away. So it just leaves a lot of mistakes. So we want to go for offline conversions as much as we can. And that's why we do this. So in Calendly, you can integrate the pixel to Calendly. What this does is obviously Calendly knows when there's a meeting, right? Calendly is the one thing that we know in the funnel works because if Calendly receives the meeting, it knows it's a meeting, right? The pixel tracking, ad blockers, all those things could be wrong. But Calendly will be the one tool that knows if there's a meeting. So pretty much Calendly communicates directly with Facebook and says, hey, Facebook, there's a meeting with this email. And then Facebook matches it together with the person and then it pulls it through. So you can pretty much guarantee that this is as close to accurate as possible. Now, does it mean it's 100%? No, it's not. It's still got a margin for error, but it's at least the closest thing you can do. So make sure you set that up and make sure you optimize for that. On the targeting side of things, I always recommend to everyone who runs ads just to do the same 4 bundles. So it's pretty much go after influencers because they already own the market you want. Go after the tools or the softwares that your audience uses because, again, that's just a hit or miss. If you have a look at this size of the audience would be massive, right? Like in the tens of millions because I was going after big tools, right? But again, my creative did the job of filtering that audience down. And then I just went for like 2 broadish ones, right? So I went for pretty much anyone in the US, UK, or Canada who is a page admin and is also interested in entrepreneurship, right? Which is like, again, a massive audience. And then over here, I went for passive income and page admins, right? So I was filtering down by page admins because if you are a business owner, you obviously have a Facebook page. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on Facebook, especially in the info world. I want to preference this that these are the ads that I ran for this market. Doesn't mean it would work for gym or any of those other niches. Important to also know your niche. Right. Now, let's go back to the campaign level and have a look at this. Okay, so we got 3 meetings and I paid an average of $315 for it. If you were just looking at this at surface value, that would still be really, really good, right? I mean, it's a $1,500 offer, but not really. It's a $3,600 offer because remember, we're charging up front. So, spending $315 to acquire a customer for $3,600, that's good. That's very profitable. It's about a 10x, right? Assuming you had a 100% closing rate. But here is the secret, and I think that's actually the next thing on my notes. Yeah, the sales setter. So you can see that we got 3 meetings, but we actually got 29 leads, right? And I think that Facebook's tracking is wrong here. I'm pretty sure we got like 33-ish. I think we got a bit more. I remember it was 10 times, so it must have been over 30, right? Now, again, if you go back to our funnel, you can see that we're capturing phone numbers. This is incredibly important. So if we look at this data, we've got, let's just call it 30. 30 people go through the funnel. They give us their name, email, phone number. They watch the video, but only 3 people book a call. That means 27 of them watched the video, but didn't book a call. Why didn't they book a call? Maybe they need a little bit more motivation. Maybe they had questions that the video didn't answer. We don't know. So what do? We have a sales setter who pretty much phones those leads until they pick up. So we have a sequence running in the background where we phone the lead about 5 times. So we phone them the day of, the day after, the day after, and then twice each time. So you phone the lead twice on the day of, twice on the day after, twice on the day after, and then once again, right? Check my math on that. But pretty much we phone these leads aggressively. And when they phone them, they pretty much say, hey, we saw that you opted in for the video. I just wanted to check with you if you received A, the free resource, and B, if you had any questions. Okay, because pretty much in the VSL, we always give away something for free. There's like a whole email sequence that goes with it, which I don't actually have for you guys, but I could probably find that somewhere. But there's a whole email sequence that I made for it. The reason why I'm not showing it to you is it didn't really do much. Like we obviously had the automated emails go out, but to my knowledge, there were no calls actually booked through that. So I mean, I set it up because it took me an hour and a half to do it because I've done it so many times, but I don't think it's that important. Anyways, pretty much in that, we send them like a free PDF, which is basically a summary. So that's what the closer is talking to them about on the call. And so what ended up happening is we had a total of 8 sales calls booked, right? So we had 3 come directly through Facebook, but then the others came through literally the closers phoning them and saying, hey, do you have any questions? Answering their questions and then manually booking them in. Okay, so if you have a look at this, right? Facebook is saying that our cost per strategy session was $315. And again, just to do the maths here, let's go back up to the campaign level and let's look at, what's happening with Facebook over here. We want to see the amount spent. So the amount spent was about 947 and it's saying that we got 3 calls. Okay, so it's giving me a cost per strategy session of 315. I know from my CRM tracking that we didn't have 3 calls, we had 8, right? If we include that. So if I divide this by 8, my cost per strategy session is now 118. That is beautiful, right? That is really, really profitable. And that's why this funnel works so well. Because number 1, I was charging a high ticket offer. Number 2, I had that secret source in place. And finally, the other thing that I also mentioned there is using these setters, not only to reduce my CPS, So CPSS stands for cost per strategy call. That's what I just showed you. So I was able to reduce my cost per call from 315 to roughly about $120, right? Which is almost a, what is that? 300% decrease. Really, really good, right? Again, super, super profitable. Plus we got more calls, right? Which ended up becoming more clients. But the other thing is we got way higher show up rates, because what these setters would do is they would phone the leads who did book a call and say, hey, just want to make sure that you are got the time, you've got the information, you know how to use Zoom, take them through the whole process. And then obviously the ones that they booked in themselves manually, they would phone them and send them SMSs. So pretty much we had a 100% show up rate, which is unheard of. I think maybe we got a little bit lucky there with leads. I don't know. But again, I just know that I had the system in place to optimize it as much as possible. All right. Then as far as the closing framework went, what I basically did is I mentioned the beta straight in the beginning, and I mentioned we are now out of beta. Because we were out of beta, we now have this extra capacity. And so because of that, we're willing to give discounts on upfront payments. Okay, so again, we framed it in that way that we are experts because we've just done the beta, which I actually did do. And again, we had proof of that. B, we show them amazing results. Very, very important. Do not run ads if you don't have results. Right? Like, I think that should go without saying, but it's just really, really hard to close if you don't have that, because leads that come through ads are going to have very high objections because they're the coldest form of traffic you'll get. So if you don't have case studies, you don't have a good offer, like, it's just not going to work, right? So make sure that you have those prerequisites before you start. Finally, follow-ups. So of those 8 calls, I think we closed, I believe it was 6 out of them, but I know only 4 of them were actually closed on the call because I took the calls myself. So we closed 6, but only 4 actually closed on the call. The other 2, which is 50%, by the way, of those 4, they were closed through follow-ups, right? So we have 8 follow-ups that went out to every single lead. I built this system a long time ago for some of my previous agencies, and I've just kind of used the same general structure of how to do this. So really important lesson there is don't give up on follow-ups because they make a massive, massive difference. And this funnel would not have been as profitable at all had I not been doing that. I literally would have only signed, 2 less clients, which is quite a lot if you look at the macroeconomics. That is, what is that? $7,200 because it's 3,600 times 2. So yeah, follow-ups are really important. Finally, guys, I think that walks through everything: the funnel, the offer, the guarantee, closing mechanics, my secret sauce, the actual ads themselves. I'm happy to answer more questions on this as well, how I kind of went through this in much detail. But again, I just wanted to show you that this does work. What I then wanted to do is just give you a little bit of an alternative. So let's say that I did all of this and it didn't work. The next thing that I would have done is ran Facebook lead form ads. So if you don't know what these are, pretty much in Facebook, there's this like lead form pop-up where you can pretty much capture information. So phone number, email from the person's Facebook account. Now, usually what happens with this, in my experience, is you get very low cost per leads and you get a lot of leads, but no one books any calls, right? Which is why I didn't do it in the first place. But what I have seen done successfully and what I've recommended to a lot of the students who, they can't get their ads to work well, is you have a setter sitting in what I call a hot seat. So what this basically means is 5 minutes after someone fills out the form, someone needs to phone them. It has to literally be that responsive, which means you literally need someone sitting in Slack waiting for those messages to come through, right? So again, that's a little bit of an operation to organize that with time zones and things, but that is what I would have done had I not been able to get this to work the first time round, and that's how I would have probably got it to work the second time round, right? That's kind of the prerequisite that I made. So again, guys, I hope this was really helpful. I just want to say again, make sure you have the ingredients for this to be successful, because I see a lot of people who run ads for the agency and they don't succeed, but they don't have the ingredients of success, which is why they didn't succeed in the first place. Make sure, again, just to reiterate, I wouldn't touch ads until you're doing about 10K a month, right? Make sure that the budget that you allocate for this is only a budget that you're willing to lose. Make sure you have service market fit, which includes having some case studies, having some confidence, understanding your niche well and your guarantee and how to do sales and tonality. And just make sure that you actually are worth someone buying your service, right? Because I see a lot of people who just get started, no experience, no case studies, no anything, and they think paid traffic's their answer. It's not. You can put a bunch of traffic through a terrible funnel and it's not going to work, right? Really, really important. So yeah, I hope that was helpful to you guys. If you do want my personal help implementing some of these systems, running these ads for you, click the link down below. You can watch that VSL I was talking about that I made for Systems and Profit. It's about 10 minutes. It walks you through our offer, our guarantee, pay on results, very, very different than some of the other offers in the market. With that being said, hopefully I'll see you on that page, and then from there you can book a call. But if not, cool. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe and like, and I'll see you in some future videos.